Do you know that story about Sally and Chuck? I'll tell you the story about Sally and Chuck. There was Sally and Chuck, and they were great together. It seemed like they were a good fit. And Sally's idea was to form a family and keep it close, take care of it, follow Chuck, and just be there for him. Well, Chuck's idea of a family was gotta do what everybody's doing it. And once that box is checked, the next one is career and balancing in between. Like, the whole world does that, right? So he shouldn't be an exception. And so he studied. Chuck studied hard. And Sally, she was raising the kids, coming one after another, like most families. And Chuck wanted to study more. He wanted to go to the master degree. She followed. Sally was okay with that. Then Chuck wanted to do PhD because he wanted more. It was not enough. Master wasn't enough. He didn't want to end up going to a different distant place and work for McDonald's or wash dishes in some hotel. So she followed. She stayed behind and at home, and she watched the little ones. So he went and he studied abroad. Chuck felt success was coming his way. He could accomplish a lot. He had people behind his back with lots of cash. And Sally felt overwhelmed, of course, like all moms. And she had her ups and downs and doubts and whatnot. And she wanted to study too. Maybe she wanted to, but they didn't seem to have, it wasn't always the right time. It was this kid and then that kid and then this kid and then that kid, and she didn't have time for herself anymore or what she wanted to do. So Sally was okay with that. She continued and hoped that things might change. Her time might come. But instead of seeing things improving, she saw distancing. And so she started withdrawing herself. And Chuck followed the same example. And just like in many, many families that we read about and watch movies about, they grew apart. And Sally stayed home, watched the kids, and worked full time. She also was helping Chuck with his business, and she had ideas. She supported. She was there. She was working for him and a full-time job, and watching the kids and cleaning the house. So Chuck decided that it was great, that she was doing a lot of things on her own. She's great. So I have more time to focus on and energy to focus on what I really want to do. So Chuck decided to go big. he built up his own business, and he built it big. He took a lot of money to do it, and it wasn't risky for him because it was a good strategy. Well, Sally was not really quite sure if she wanted to follow that one, because she was feeling tired and overwhelmed, and maybe she wanted a change. Maybe she was hoping that if they're in a different place, Chuck might turn around and come back and be the loving person that she remembered she married. Well, Chuck was too busy building up his business and his ego and his reputation. So family was the second. Presence at home was a second for him. And after all, everybody where he lived did the same thing, so he was not an exception. That discouraged Sally a lot. So she ended up praying hard. Things might change in a different way, take different course. Jack hired a person, Joyce. We'll call her Joyce. Oh, Joyce was quite the joy. She was young and freshly divorced, and Chuck helped as much as he could, because he was a good Christian, to settle her down. He even asked his mommy, who is his right hand, to be helpful as much as she can. I mean, after all, that's what they do for everybody. Nobody's particularly special. They do that for everybody. They're nice to everybody. Sally felt confused at first, and as the time passed, a bit shocked, more and more. And finally, she just didn't care anymore. She just focused on the kids and her job and mending the house. Well, Chuck took this adventure of his life. It was his prime time. It's the moment of his life where he is flourishing in his business, and he's enjoying the company of Joyce and his mom. What a bliss. He decided that felt right, and it was good for him. So when Sally and him talked about, this marriage is over, he decided it will be okay. He still has his business, his mom, and Joyce. And Sally, she just had her kids. And she was making steps to move on with her life. And so there were many reasons why Chuck and Sally decided to split. And it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen over a year. It was a process. Instead of building it up together, they were growing apart together, willingly, forcing it, believing that's it. And when finally they talked, he told her that even after his little second one was born, he basically gave up. He saw where things were going. Sally felt like, what? We have so many more children after the second one. How could that be? She felt stupid. She felt betrayed. She felt like nothing. And yet, that was the fact. Then, one time she needed help with something to grab. Unexpectedly showed up at his workplace, and there he was, sleeping at the feet of Joyce, who had come to work. a bit earlier. Why not? Taking care of her boss was important. After all, he needed help. He had nobody else. He thought, Sally, she has her family, either her family member, her siblings, to help with advice from distance. He had nobody. He needed Joyce at that time. He didn't consider his parents of any help. So Sally didn't say much. She just took what she needed and she left that day. But the next day, Sally decided she had that prompting to go check at Joyce's house if Jack's car wasn't there, if he wasn't there. She didn't want to follow that prompting. She was so busy. She had so many things to do at home. She had plans for how to rearrange things in the house, and she had things to prepare for the next day and for the next day and for the next day. So she kind of was like, oh, that's okay. He dropped off one of the children to a camp, and yeah, it will be okay. He probably went shopping or something. The prompting came again, and Sally was saying to herself, oh boy, what am I gonna do now? She asked the older kids to watch the younger kids, and she grabbed the car and she went to check. Lo and behold, he was there. He didn't tell about Joyce to Sally because, well, Sally hated Joyce. And there were many obvious reasons why, but he didn't see it. He refused to see it. He was indulging into this beautiful relationship with somebody so amazing. He didn't want anybody, not even Sally, to destroy that. That was beautiful and flourishing. No. He needed help from Joyce. He needed comfort. He needed to cry on her shoulder because Sally was leaving him. How Sally felt that day? Just like in the movies. When you least expect something to happen, it's like your worst nightmare happening. She realized men are really weak. They really are. And she was raising a few of them. So she decided to try to be understanding and helpful. And she held very well the situation. But the next day, she got to think about it. Sally thought about all the times when she also needed help with somebody to clean up her house upstairs. Just like Joyce asked Chuck for that help that day. But when she asked for that help, Chuck was always busy. He had to go here and there, even on Saturdays and Sundays. She remembered how she was carrying heavy furniture and lost a baby afterwards and had fights, and he was sending her home when she was pregnant without knowing. She remembered after losing that child, the little pat on the back, and that was about it. No more spoken of. And then she remembered so much more. That it became really heavy on her. How weak a guy can be. Jack was flying to comfort or to seek comfort from somebody because he didn't feel that at home when he didn't provide that for Sally as well. So the story of Chuck and Sally is a very common story. It's a story of two people with very different views who give up fighting. And when there is no togetherness in anything, there is no future. Sally didn't want to get there. Sally never thought that she would. In fact, she believed in family and forgiveness, and she believed in happiness, growing old together. And Chuck just enjoyed his life along the way. He didn't know why she was angry or upset or ignoring him. Always, or most of the time. He didn't understand why she was always tired and grumpy and sleepy. But Sally's friends, other moms, they knew. They understood her because they were in the same boat with her. And the conclusion is, Chuck started living his single life before they were even separated. He had time to go to the gym. He had time to take care of his body. He had time to walk in beautiful parks with Joyce. Well, Sally, she was really mostly disabled after her last kids were born, and she desperately needed a chiropractor or somebody to put her bones in place again. But there was nobody who cared about it, and Sally grew sad, and she lost hope that Chuck actually really cared all along. And so she felt betrayed, used like a napkin and thrown away in the trash. But then she remembered that smart professor who was teaching a lesson to his students in the classroom when he took a $20 bill and he asked the children, the students, if that was of value. They said yes. Then he smashed it. He just smashed it. And then he opened it again and said, do you think that has value again? They said yes. Then he stepped on it a few times, like really nasty. And they said, well, it's still valuable. It's still $20. And he tried a few more tricks to damage it. Didn't change the value. So Sally remembered that. That little story kept her going. And no matter what life does to you, how much it pounds you, knocks you down, slips, trips you, pounds on you again, burns you, your value doesn't change. And if Chuck didn't see it, well, that was his problem.